Hi, Steve Riley. Welcome to this episode of Great Practice, Great Life. I have attorney Blinn Bates here today, but I don't want to spend too much time introducing Blinn because I want Blinn to introduce himself. And here's how I'd like you to do it, Blinn. Let's tell the story from the moment you knew you were in trouble, the moment you knew that there was a problem. What was happening? What were you doing? And tell the audience what was going on.
Sure. I appreciate you having me. And it was just over 2 years ago. So it was March 29th of 2023. I was doing some training. I got a private pilot's license back in 2014. And at some point I decided I wanted to take that a little further, some additional training, some instrument training and things like that. And so that's kind of what we had done at the beginning of the evening. And it was a beautiful night. The weather was perfect, so we did some training. I went up in the airplane with another gentleman who was a flight instructor and had given me some training before. And we did what we wanted to do. But, it was one of those nights where we said, let's just do some flying. Let's enjoy the weather a little bit. And I needed to get some currency. So we did that. This is a single engine airplane. It's a Piper Cherokee 6. So it had 6 seats in the airplane. It's a smaller aircraft and bigger for me than what I learned on. What I learned on was a 2-seater. It was just a little bitty plane, but this was a much more powerful, to me, airplane than what I learned on. It was an airplane that I had bought with a friend of mine who was also a pilot several years before. So we were flying around in this, and I did a couple landings. To get current, I needed 3. So I did a couple. We took off again, nothing out of the ordinary. And I'm coming around and we were going to finish up. I remember my son was playing baseball.
And how old your
And
son? How old your son?
My son at the time would have been 11. He's 13 now.
Okay.
And actually, the third time we came around, we went over the field they were playing, so I could see, what was going on. We're not real high up, and came around. Everything was fine, and could see the runway actually, and I could see, just from my experience, that I was a little bit high. And so when you're a little bit high, you pull the power back a little bit and you sink down. And I did that. And when I got where I wanted to be and I was set up, I pushed the power back on to get to the runway, and nothing happened. And I remember thinking to myself, that's not good. And I remember saying to my passenger, Larry, we don't have any power. And we were probably at the time about a quarter of a mile from the runway. So we were close. I mean, we were coming in, and it's a pretty critical point in the landing. And we were probably, I would guess, 300 or 400 feet off the ground. And without power, the aircraft was heavy. So it went down quickly. I mean, it was pretty much like flying a brick at that point. And so I don't remember anything from that point, but we did get onto the ground. My passenger did have recollection of that. And he said, it took us to the ground. We obviously didn't have a lot of choice of where to land. We landed where we could. When we did make impact with the ground, it was we were going pretty quickly. And then ultimately we hit what amounted to a flower box, and a tree took off one of the wings, and we both survived. We both had injuries. I still do not have recollection of that period of time, but God said more to do. So we made it.
What did you do next? How did you figure this out?
So some of the things that we were learning through Atticus was delegation, hiring, staffing. I had done some of that, not well, but I had done some of that. And it was kind of learning how to do that stuff better. And that's an ongoing learning activity for me of how to better delegate, how to better hire, how to better manage. And I'm still learning as I go here. But one of the really impactful books that I read along the way was How to Buy Back Your Time.
The Dan Martell book, Buy Back Your Time. Yeah.
Really
Great.
good stuff. And just kind of makes you think about how to do that, how to better delegate, how to let other people accomplish tasks. And as I've done that, my delegation has changed from I need you to do this, 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 and this, and here's how you need to do it, and get it to me ASAP. To here's the result that I'm looking for. We need to get this accomplished if we can by such and such a date, and let me know if you have questions. More of a results and letting people run with it. Because believe it or not, other people are better at a lot of things than I am. And that took me a long time to figure out.
I know you're laughing, but in my life, I have many people pointing this out to me. So, so, so it is important because what you described, there's two things for our audience, and we'll put links into Dan's book. It's one of the things we recommend in our group programs to read the book. There's two elements of the book that you're referencing. Well, one element of the book that you're referencing, which is to figuring out what your buyback rate is, which basically for those of you listening, that's either a quick cheat sheet if you're an attorney or a team leader, is probably about 25% of what your billable rate is. If you're billing $400 an hour and you're making 100, you can delegate anything for $100 an hour or under. There's different ways of calculating this, and this formula has been around for a while, but Dan does a great job of describing it in his book. The second thing that you're doing is describing strategic delegation versus task delegation. And as you grow your practice, you start to learn how to as you grow your practice, you start to learn how to do strategic delegation, which is how to delegate process, not task inside the process. So these are really good jumps. And I'm just pointing them out for the audience so they can hear it and say, well, how do I learn from Blinn and apply this in my life without crashing a plane as a rule of thumb? Like, how do I learn these things? So sorry, Blinn, I will tease you, but I am in awe of you. You're just like explaining this thing that's so terrifying, and you walk away from it and you're so calm and steady and cool and collected. And I'm like, I know so many people that will still be in therapy from this. When you look out in the future for your practice, what's probably the biggest thing that you want to change about your practice to go from decent to great? If I said, okay, Blinn, you said you have a decent practice. What would be a great practice in the future for you?
I think the one thing I would say is even very, very small progress starts to build. Even if you just take on one thing at a time, and that's really all you can do is say, I'm going to work on this and try to figure out where I want to go and how I want to get there. Doing a little bit at a time is eventually going to grow exponentially. When I first sat down in that group program, I told you that a couple of weeks ago, I was overwhelmed. There's just so much to do, and there still is so much to do, but just getting started. One of the first things they told us to do in our group program was, we want you to go home and we want you to clean your office. And I'm sitting there thinking, what? I've came all the way down here for this? You're going to tell me to go clean my office?
Yeah. Yeah. Keep going. I like this.
So I did. I mean, I was willing at that point. I'm willing to do what is being suggested, and I've gotten to that point in my life where I'm willing to take some suggestions. And so I'm going to go do that.
So when you look at your practice now, what have you done from a marketing perspective? Because I hear everything operationally, which sounds terrific. Is there anything that you've adopted to improve your marketing, to improve great clients, to improve the quality of work quality of cases I should say?
We have. So, personally, I worked on trying to do 3 marketing contacts a week or more, doing those types of things, writing notes to clients or to referral sources or, whoever it may be, thanking them for business or just having those touch points. But probably one of the most impactful things we've done is we hired a marketing company, Legrand Marketing, to help us. And, they do a great job. When I explain it to people, I tell them that they do all of the things that you would want to do as a business owner when it comes to marketing without having to do it yourself. It's been phenomenal.